the last of the Tom Ford Wet and Dry new formulas. Today we are talking about Peach Dawn. I already have the look on. I have a wet and dry look like I've done with all the others. This video won't be as long because obviously we've done two quads already, Hazy Sensuality and Golden Hour. But I will say, I think of the three, just spoiler, this is the most everyday. It's the lightest of the three. It's the least impactful of all three, but it's probably the one that's most everyday that people could wear, like would feel comfortable if they don't like a lot of pigment or a lot of different types of color. $90 wet dry formula, supposedly part of the permanent collection. And we're gonna go through the wet and dry look. And then I'm gonna talk to you about all three quads, how I rank them, my thoughts on the formulas overall, which one I think you'll like depending on the kind of person you are, and my thoughts about Tom Ford in general and what's coming next and the launches of these and a whole bunch of other details. So let's switch it over to how I got these looks. All right, time to do the eye look. Let's start again with the swatches. I'm sure I'll show them in the beginning of the video as well. They are all satin, shimmery kind of shades. There isn't anything that's matte that's gonna super ground this. I think some of these shades are gonna blend into each other, but we shall see. Let's go ahead and start with the dry look. The dry look, I'm gonna start with the shade here, the deeper shade, and see what we get. My skin is being very picky today and very dehydrated. I obviously have not had enough water, so any imperfections that you see are not, it's not the makeup's fault. It is my skin's. I'm going to have to do a lot of masking and stuff this week. All right. And it's kind of funny that I don't have enough hydration because it's pouring outside, so the plants are very hydrated. This is what happens in spring in New England. It's basically just wet. All right, so that's a very pigmented, peachy shade. I'd say it's got like a little bit of coral to it. We'll take, it's probably it's the deepest shade that's in here. Let's take this shade here, which has more of that, it's a little more gold leaning, and just emphasize and see how it, you know, again, if I had put the gold shade, goldish orangey shade down first, you'd probably see more of it because this is getting taken up by the coral, but I wanted to, you know, keep it, I want to have like a little bit of a deeper look and see how, you know, see how this goes. Yeah, I think these shades are going to tend to blend. All right, let's use this peachy shade. They're all peachy, but this one looks more peach. The original one we put on was more coral. It's a nice light shade. I am using a Kolinsky brush to bring out as much of the pigment as possible. If you use a synthetic brush, you won't get as much. And then the other shade we're going to use is the shade here. This one has less of the gold, more of like a deeper peach. But like I said, the shades are similar. So you're not going to get a ton of, it's peach. It's like a corally peach. I'm going to take a very fluffy brush. This is a Suku brush. And I'm going to take the lightest shade, the one we put on the eye. And I'm just going to like sweep that in the brow. Like I said, it's very, very light. Because I don't actually want a lot to come off. I wanted to keep it very, very light. Okay, that's the dry look. Again, these shades, although different on the hand, I get that there's, you know, one's pinkier. The first one I did, this one obviously has more like coral. It's got more pink to it. This one definitely has more gold. This is more peach, and this is more like, I would say, apricot is the way to describe it. But they're not going to look that different on the eye. You're going to get, it's actually going to be a little bit like the Ravage Dior summer look. Similar kind of thing, I think. I think that's what you're going to get. All right, let me do it wet and let's see what we get. Now I'm going to try to do a little bit of a different look wet. Do this, I'm gonna do the shades in a different order. Let's take that golden shade and use that on the outer. Let's see if we can see how that one looks. And when I say golden, this shade here has a little bit more like yellow to it, a little more gold, where the others have more peach or apricot or coral. This shade has a little bit more gold. So let's put that on the eye first so you can see what it looks like. See how you get, it's definitely like a gold shade. This shade in here, if you concentrate more of this shade, you're gonna get less of the orange and more of a gold. It's a very pretty gold. It's a warm gold. And we'll just leave it like right there on the outer part of the eye. Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, if you're looking for gold, it's a good warm gold. Okay. Then let's take the shade that I said that's more like apricot and use that to kind of continue this crease. Again, more pronounced. But you can see how on the eye, yes, it is definitely more tense than it is dry, but it's not that different of a shade than the gold. It's different, but not like drastically so. Let me just like pull it out here. It kind of is a little bit more, like I said, a little more apricot, but the two shades don't look that different on the eye. Look similar. All right, now we're gonna take the lightest shade. I'm gonna put that on the eyelid, just like I did on the other eye, just because I think that's the best shade for the eyelid. But don't worry, we'll take a look at that more coral shade that I used first on the other eye. We'll save that for last. Definitely gonna get more intensity from that shade. It's pretty intense on this side actually. But you can see, like even wet, although the shades are much more intense, that they still blend because the shades, frankly, aren't that different from one another. Again, it's pretty, but it's all like a pretty, it all blends into like a nice light peach. Okay, now let's take the deepest shade, the one that we started with over here, and let's see what we can do with it over here on the outer side. Now I am going to use just a little bit at first because I don't want it to overtake the entire look. I'm just patting it on so you can see what I'm talking about. See how like pigmented that is? This definitely has more pink to it. So I'd say this shade is more of a coral. I'm just keeping it on the outer corner of the eye so that we don't. And I'll run a little bit, like a tiny line into the crease, but I'm gonna keep it very light so that you get more of the demarcation as much as possible. And then run a little here. I don't wanna run this too much under the eye because it has more pink in it. I think it won't look as good. I think this will look nicer when, frankly, I have mascara on with it. Okay. Dry look, wet look. Okay, put some mascara on and then we will come back, and today's video I will talk about all three quads and which one, I'm sure I said this in the intro, and which ones are my ranking and what I think about picking them up. Okay, so now you've seen how I applied these. Let's talk about all three of them, okay? So first of all, they are the wet dry formula. I'm gonna see if I can hold them all up at the same time without like ruining something. The wet dry formula, they are kind of neutral palettes, everyday palettes. The Hazy Sensuality is the coolest of all three. The Golden Hour, which is this one here, is I guess the most diverse because it's got pink and gold, sort of. And the Peach Dawn over here is the one that is the most monotone. It's basically the same shade, even though it shows differently in the swatch. Now, when I did the wet dry, when I did the application, I think you'll notice, and here's the dry look and here's the wet look. I think you'd notice when I did the application that the dry look is actually really subtle but very pretty, and I think creates a really beautiful coral peach look. And I think for the spring summer is actually really nice. I actually like this look on me. I think it's good shades for me. I think the formula is really nice, and I could see me like wearing this. Although I would say I feel like you could achieve this with 2 shades. There's 4 shades in here, and you don't see the 4 shades. So for $90, I think you're getting a very simple look for $90. However, the formula is excellent. Tom Ford does make good products. They're good for a more mature eye. All of those things still apply. The wet look is definitely more intense, and the peachy coral shade, the one that we put on here first, that pink shade, is definitely more impactful wet. In fact, all the shades are more impactful wet, but I would say that this one is the least impactful wet versus dry. When you did the hazy sensuality, I put it dry and put it wet, there's a huge difference in the way that it looks. In the golden hour, there's a pretty big difference between the way they look. With the peach dawn, in my opinion, I like it better dry. I think it looks nicer because it's soft. And I think that's kind of the point of this look. This is a soft, romantic, makes sense. It's a soft look, and I think it looks better dry. I think wet, I think it's a little, I don't know, not harsh, but I just don't like it as much on me. I feel like it looks like too gold, pink, like peachy gold, whereas this I think looks soft and peachy and coral and just really kind of nice and like almost like a little, it sounds weird, but like juicy. I like this look. Again, it's $90 to get basically 2 shades, because that's really all that you really get. You get the pinkier coral shade, and then you get the peach shade on the eye. The other shades kind of blend. So how would I rank them? Hazy Sensuality by far is my favorite, which is such a shock to me because it's the coolest of all of them. But the pink shade that's in here is so unusual. I really, really like that. These other shades kind of remind me of Nude Dip or Cocoa Mirage in the coolness, but not too cool, like somewhat neutral cool. And I think the eye look was stunning. I really do. I was really impressed with the way that it looked. I even really liked it dry, which again, surprised. And it's just a quad that I think I'll wear more often. And I definitely could see me using this pink shade wet to try to create something a little bit more like impressive. Second, I would say is the Peach Dawn, because I like the way it looks dry. And I could see me using this actually as just a really nice, peachy, summery spring look. Because, you know, that's exactly what it is. It's light, it's peachy, it's springy. It kind of goes with like those types of watermelon shades that I might wear, a brighter lip, and a more subdued eye. Like I could totally see that for spring and summer. And I could also see me just using like any of these shades. The gold one I don't like as much, but like the peachier, pinkier coral shades is just like a one and done. It's very light and a brighter lip and being done with it. The golden hour, which is the one that I was drawn to in the beginning, is my least favorite because it actually looked really nice. It was a really pretty look, but it looks like so many other quads that I have. And someone else mentioned Chanel Golden Bouquet that came out that was limited edition. It looks like that. It looks like so many things, guys. That's not to say it's bad, because obviously if I have a bunch of them, I've you know, didn't totally hate them. But it's the least unique to me. It's the least unique to my collection. I feel like I have it a million times. You probably do too. And I thought it looked nice on my eye, but I wasn't like blown away. I was kind of like, eh. And wet versus dry, I wasn't enthralled with either look. In the Hazy Sensuality, I was really impressed with the wet look. I was like, wow, that looks really, I mean, it was intense, but it looked really good. And I really love that pink shade wet. And in the Peach Dawn, I really like it dry. I think it's a very soft, very pretty look. I will say, it resembles the Dior Rivage that came out for summer. It's not that different from that. Now that Dior Rivage has 5 shades in it, and basically you get the same peachy look that you do in this one. But at least this one has the option to use it wet dry, and you can get a more intense look. So I feel like, you know. But again, overall, that's how I rank them. So if I was gonna just use them dry, I'd say the Peach Dawn is probably the most everyday user-friendly. I think it looks really nice. They all look pretty dry. They do. It's a good formula, good for more mature eye. They're everyday kind of wear. If you're gonna, do something more intense, I like the Hazy Sensuality. I think the wet really lends itself to that particular color story. I think that pink is really unusual. But overall, I'd say this, guys. These are, at least with my understanding, part of the permanent collection. Although I have been hearing, and I don't know if it's true, but I have been hearing that there might not be a lot of these. Again, it's so hard to tell what's going on with Tom Ford, but that there's a possibility that they won't have a ton of them and they might not be part of the permanent collection. As soon as I can find out more details, I'll let you know. My Tom Ford SA at Nordstrom has told me that she is getting them. She will have them. So, you guys, and she had them for a while, like the Hazy Sensuality and stuff. You could order from them. I mentioned that on Instagram. And so that, I haven't heard from her that they're going away or they're not going to be released. So, or from anyone at Tom Ford in New York. So maybe it's just twittering across, social media, but we'll see. I'll certainly let you know as soon as I do. But again, these should be part of the permanent collection. There should be no rush in picking these up. They are wet dry formula. They are very pretty. I think they're nice. I think they're good, everyday kinds of shades. The only one that has any coolness to it, in my opinion, is the Hazy Sensuality. If I were to be buying these for just myself and I wanted to buy something from Tom Ford, at this point, I would just wait. That's just me. The Soleil Faux collection is coming out soon. There looks like there's a warm one and a cool one. How cool and how warm, I just don't know yet. They are limited edition. They will not be part of the permanent collection. As soon as I get my hands on them, I will demo them for you. And then you can make a determination whether you want one of those or one of these, or all of them, or whatever. Don't know exactly what the formula will be like, but it's probably like the other Soleil collections. I will say that the other Soleil collections that were limited edition usually did sell quickly. And there were some that were really popular that were just like gone. In my opinion, at this point, I am not blown away by any of these and like I must have them immediately. The only one that I felt a little bit more towards that was the Hazy Sensuality. I think these are all nice. I think the formula is good. I think there's nothing wrong with the way that they work. But these are, they're everyday shades that are like a nice look. But I do think you can accomplish this for less than $90. I will say though, the Tom Ford, the ability to do a wet and dry, that's great. I do think it does work like it's supposed to. I do think these, again, are good for mature eyes. The formula works really well. They're just not like my favorite Tom Ford quads. And with the faux collection being limited edition, I don't want you to feel like, if you go get these and then you don't have the money to spend on the faux and the faux turns out to be fantastic. And these are supposed to be permanent. That's all I'm saying. So like you should have more time to get these if you want them really badly. If, however, you're like, I absolutely love a peach look like this. Tom Ford is my favorite formula. I love wet dry. I love the ability to do this soft look and then have something more. Then absolutely, go ahead and get the peach Dawn. But yeah, I think these are good. The formula gets an A for me. The color stories are pretty ubiquitous. The only shade that I think is really unusual is that pink and the Hazy Sensuality. This reminds me very much of the Dior Rivage. I'll have the link go up to that video. I can think of some others. I think it's kind of what Bitter Peach should have been in Tom Ford, but that quad was so bad for me. Like, I think I must have gotten a bad one. Like, you can't even get a shade from that. On me, like, you can't even get pigment out of that quad. It just does not work. That's kind of what people were expecting, was a look like this, which is not what you get. So if you really like the idea of Bitter Peach, then here it is. It's Peach Dawn. That wraps up the trio of the Wet and Dry formula. Like I said, they are neutrals, warm and cool. If you're interested in them, they are available at Neiman's at the moment. I think at least Peach Dawn and Golden Hour are. My understanding is they will all be available online and at retailers very, very soon. If something changes, I will let you all know. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon.